Hello everybody, Ian here. Well, here it is. This, my 1926 Model T Ford Coupe. I thought I'd make a video about it because, well, that is what Model T Ford owners seem to do. Certainly to me it seems like more than any other classic car make, Model T owners seem to delight in making videos about their pride and joy and sharing them on YouTube. So, this one's mine. So what we'll do is we'll take a look at it. We'll have a look in the engine, we'll have a look inside the cab, and we'll share a few thoughts about it, and we'll see what you think. So first things first is the design of it. Even though this is a 1926 car, so the automobile has been around for 40 years now, this vehicle in particular draws a lot of design influences from the horse-drawn carriage, in particular the Broom or Brougham, that's spelled B-R-O-U-G-H-A-M. If you look at this vehicle in profile and remove the hood and remove the trunk and then compare what you've got left with a Brougham, then you'll see that there are real design similarities. So it's interesting that 40 years on, the automobile design hasn't really moved along a lot. So what we'll do now is we'll have a look at the front, then we'll go to the engine, and then we'll take a look inside. So we'll see what you think. Okay, the front end. We'll start here with this lovely piece of ornament. Is it a hood ornament? No, it's not actually. It's an important piece of equipment. When you get inside the car, you will see that there's not a lot of instrumentation in the car. In fact, there's no instrumentation at all. The car interior is very Spartan. So this is actually a very important piece of instrumentation for the car. This is the motor meter, and it's basically, on the other side of this is a temperature gauge, so that it tells you when the car is overheating. There's a little red line that runs up the gauge, and it tells you at what point the engine is overheating, but by that time you've probably got steam pouring out of the engine anyway, so it's a bit of a moot point. But it's a very, very nice piece of kit, and sets off the hood very nicely. But what people really want to know about with a car of this age is the starting handle here. All old cars have starting handles, don't they? Even though by this time the Model T Ford had an electric starter, we still had the starter handle on the front. So quick word about the starting handle. Though this one doesn't actually work at the moment because there is a different pulley on the end of the camshaft for the fan belt. The principles of starting with the starter handle are unchanged. So first things first, what you're going to do is you're going to cup the starter handle in your left hand. You're not going to hold it, you're going to cup it, because when you crank, if the engine backfires, then the handle is going to go backwards at a great rate of knots and maybe break your thumb or break your wrist or something. So always cup your hand and never hold it. So the way to start the car would be to hold onto the fender to get some extra leverage, and just pull the handle up. That should be enough to start a well-tuned, well-looked-after Model T Ford engine. So what else have we got up at the front? Well, we've got a very nice ball tyre here, which means that the toe is probably out on this vehicle. So that's going to be a job for before the spring, so I can drive the thing on the roads, is get the toe in adjusted on that. Perhaps I'll do a video on adjusting the toe in. I mean, I've not seen a video on YouTube about adjusting the toe yet, so that's really it up at the front. So next we'll move over to the engine and we'll take a look in the engine compartment. Okay, here we are then. The front end, the engine, under this marvellous butterfly hinged hood. You can't have an old car without a butterfly hinged hood. So here it is. Here is the engine. Pretty simple. Not a lot to see, but pretty basic, but we'll walk through it. But first things first. How, you remember when I said that you don't have a fuel gauge in the car? Well, how do you find out if you've got enough petrol in your tank? Well, very simply, you need a ruler. And here is the fuel tank right above the engine. You'll notice there is no fuel pump in this engine. The fuel is fed by gravity into the car, through a filter here, into the carburetor here, but it's all by gravity, there's no fuel pump. So, the fuel tank is above the engine. You put this ruler into the tank, take it out, and I will see that I have about 1.5 gallons in here. The line is coming up here, if you can see that, so there's 1.5 gallons in there right now, which with a Model T Ford, 1.5 gallons will probably do you something in the region of 30 to 35 miles. So let's have a look what we've got in here. So, like I said, we've got a fuel filter here. We have the pipe into the carburetor here. And this is the inlet manifold here. And this is the exhaust manifold. Of course, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 spark plugs. And we have this at the back. This is the coil box. Now, of course, we don't have a modern ignition in this car. What they used to be in the coil box was 4 trembler coils. They call them trembler coils. There's basically an electrical coil for like 1 for each cylinder. And when you have a car fitted with trembler coils, you turn the ignition on and you cast, and you can hear the coils buzzing away. It's a great sound, and part of the joys of running a Model T Ford, I think. So we have a modern ignition system in the coil box right now. So one of the things that I plan on doing certainly is going back to coils. Now, I'm not bothered about show coils, I just want functional electrical coils. That would be great fun, I think. What else? There is, of course, a modern distributor here. We might have to go back to an old distributor as well. Don't know, not sure on that one. It's all technical stuff that I'm not totally genned upon right now, but we'll see. So, what else is there to show on this side? Not much. You probably can't see, but in here is the end of the starting handle, and that joins onto that wood. When everything's running properly, the starting handle would join onto would mate with the end of the crankshaft, and you would turn the starting handle, and that would turn the engine over and it would start. There's also a lovely little old period piece there, a nice little oil can for oiling the engine. So that's it. Really, really nice and simple stuff. So let's see if we can get in the cab now. Here we are then, inside the car. As I said, it's a very Spartan interior. We have, like I said, no gauges. So we have the choke here. We have a very weak passenger vanity light there. The one gauge is an ammeter, and we have the this is the switch for the headlights, as well as your ignition. Your key goes in there. So what else do we have? We've got this lever here, which in this position is the parking brake, the handbrake. You move it to this position, and it is now it's engaged neutral on the car. So, and to move off you'll have the lever in the neutral position, and you will press down on that pedal with your foot, and the car will move off in low gear. Next, if you're moving along and you want to get into high gear, because there are only 2 gears on this car, you move this lever forwards and come off the clutch pedal. You are now moving in high gear, and you are controlling your acceleration with the throttle lever here. No accelerator pedal on the floor, just this lever here on the behind the steering wheel. We have a lever on this side. This is the spark advance and retard, which you'll use when you start up, or when you're going uphill. You'll retard the spark and increase the spark to get the power going uphill, or to get the engine firing up when you start up. So we also have here a reverse pedal. So that's simplicity itself. You know, you'll have the lever in like this in your midway position, and you press down on the reverse pedal, and the car will smoothly go backwards, which is very nice. Next pedal here is the brake. So it speaks for itself, really. You press the brake pedal and it will come to a stop eventually. You will also have to, when you're going to brake stop for a stop sign up the road, you will have to come off the accelerator. You will have to come into lower gear, and you will brake as well and come into neutral, so that when you stop, the car doesn't stall. I think I've got that right. It's not a simple process, and I'll rely on a more experienced Model T Ford owner to watch this video and say, "Oh, you don't quite do it like that." But anyway, that's what your controls are in here. Very simple, very basic. They had to be simple and basic because they needed to put the cars out very quickly. So I also noticed that there's not a lot of room in here. So most people, when they get in a Model T Ford, the driver will get in on the passenger side and slide across, because you kind of like have to have the dexterity of a NASCAR driver to actually get in the car. Okay, just had to reset the camera there, because otherwise my head would have disappeared out of shot when I tried to get in. So let's see what happens. Dexterity of a NASCAR driver. There we go. Luckily, I have practiced this several times. So this is it. Oh, this one's one thing I forgot to show you. The ventilation here. The air conditioning in the window. Look at this. Oh, marvellous. It does have wind down windows as well, but that's just a nice extra special touch. So, what do we have planned then? Well, it's 8 years to the car's centenary, and I would dearly like to take the car to its centenary. It has a lot of history, so it would be nice to see that through to its 100 years. You'll be able to follow that on the blog with more details of the history of the car. So there are things I want to do. I mentioned the trembler coils and the starter handle. There's some little spots of paint that would not need touching up, but other than that, it's a functional car. It drives very nicely, and so I'll be looking forward to getting some miles in on it. So something I mentioned earlier was you feel like you're a guardian, a caretaker of history with a car like this, and well, it's like this car had been around for 37 years before I was born. By the time I'd been born, and you know, if I look after it and following owners look after it, this car will be around for an awful long time. So who really owns who? I mean, the Model T Ford is the car that shaped America. It's the car that shaped the world. So it's very special to own something like this, to be and carry on the tradition of the great American automobile. So looking forward to the next 8 years. Well, I'm looking forward to next year for a start. So it'll be nice to get this out on the open road, and maybe I'll see you out there.